Alright, so we really need to revisit the motorcycle that everybody hates to admit that they actually like. Of course, I'm talking about the Honda Goldwing, and today I'm going to tell you what is so special about this specific Goldwing. And why do people hate to admit that they actually like this motorcycle? I find this bike very interesting. It's almost the quintessential example of a motorcycle you can't just look at. You have to ride it because those are two totally different experiences. So of course, I want to hear whatever your experience is, whatever your opinion, leave it down below. Let's go ahead and jump right in. So this is a 2013. Now, admittedly, I really want to ride one of the newer ones. I still haven't had an opportunity, but this is the second one I've ridden. I think the first was a 2008. And although they have changed aesthetically over the years, there's still some defining features here that make this very Honda-ish. Now, I got a lot of respect for Honda, by the way. I want everybody to know that before I start, because to be honest with you, I just think they do a better job than Harley and maybe even Indian in some ways of keeping up with the competition, staying in their lane, recognizing that they're not going to become this like super iconic American icon, if you will, kind of a backwards way of saying it, but they know they're not going to become a Harley Davidson. But what they do know is that they sell a lot of motorcycles here and they offer something for everyone. I've talked about this before. From the Grom to the Goldwing, they really kind of locked in their position. I think Indian actually does this really good too with their Bobber series up to their Pursuit, right? For example. But I just think Honda offers more and a variety of different prices. And it's very attractive to young buyers especially because you know how cheaply you can get into a motorcycle with these guys. The aesthetics, though, are very interesting. You have futuristic headlights. You have a flat inline-six motor. Most other companies, right, Kawasaki's and others, are trying to copy that V-twin style. But these guys are like, no, we're just going to put what we know works into these bikes. Now, of course, that does restrict parts of the motorcycle, and it makes for a different riding experience. But when you come all the way back, right, you have your saddlebags, your tour pack. This particular bike, it looks like it was left outside. Not only is there fading, this was the Rapid Red, I think they called it back then. There's a burn into the screen there, but overall, less than $9,000 for a touring bike with 20,000 miles, by the way. Not too bad. Now, when you look at the cockpit, this is where you almost need a pilot's license in order to figure out what the heck is going on. From the CB radio buttons, to the XM, to the navigation, to levers literally everywhere. This thing quite literally has it all. There's levers that allow you to use the foot warmers. Now back in 2013, they labeled each one of their motorcycles with basically what the bike came with. So this one is like the Audio Comfort Navi XM ABS model. Pretty self-explanatory and definitely a mouthful, but it came with all of that in this model year. What makes it really interesting in 2013 though is that they started putting airbags in these bikes. Now I looked to try to see if there was any documented cases where the airbag has actually saved riders, and there's one in 2008 and it kept the rider from going over the handlebars, and they credited that with actually saving this rider. The problem is with the airbag on this as opposed to like a smart vest is it's got to be a front impact in order to actually work. A low side, a high side, it's not going to do anything for you. So there's limited data on that, but these models still come with it. So there you go. It's the highest level trim. I think back then was like 29,000, but they start about 25 in today's money. You have storage compartments up front. You have storage, of course, on the sides, and in the back, the tour pack, you have 3 levers. You have one in the middle under the tour pack, one on the left, one on the right to operate your saddlebags. This bike shows its age a little bit, but still you don't find nearly as many options on 2013 Harleys or pretty much any other motorcycle. The Goldwing just literally has almost everything you can think of. Even today, to me, it's kind of impressive. Now, it looks cluttered and there's a lot going on, and when you compare it to the new Goldwings, they actually have cleaned up the cockpit, if you will, quite a bit, but they still have a lot of different options, including the ability to go with a DCT, or automatic transmission. I don't know that I would want to do that, but still, you have the option. But here's one thing I love on this motorcycle. Some of you guys are going to laugh, that's okay, but it has reverse. You literally press a button and then put that thing in reverse. You're on an incline, doesn't even matter. Man, I could have used this last year when I went to Sturgis and I made the mistake of parking on a slight incline and I was blocked in by a bunch of other motorcycles and literally needed help getting back out of that space. That reverse gear, I'll be honest with you, dude, if they started putting that on Harley, I would absolutely praise that. But again, I'm 5'7", and so, you know, challenges. That's all I'll say. But it would be nice to have that reverse gear, and Honda's been doing it for a long time now. But here's the biggest thing. If you get past the aesthetics, then you get on the motorcycle. And this is what I encourage everybody to do. If you're not sold on the idea of a Goldwing, you get on it. And my first thing is, I'm like, okay, it has reverse. That's great. All right, that was my first thing. The navigation actually worked surprisingly well for what it is. Very small screen is what it is, but still pretty quick, actually. Right? The bike came with navigation, XM, all of that kind of stuff. So very impressive there. But I thought maybe by having mid-mounted controls, first of all, this is not going to be as comfortable. And nor do I think it is still, even after riding it. But it's not bad. It puts you in a completely upright position. And while I think the bars are a little low, that's just a personal preference. When it comes to comfort, I don't know any other bike that rivals it. Maybe the Heritage, which I still find to be one of the most comfortable Harleys out there. It just is super comfortable. You know, when you look at some of the tri-glides and stuff from Harley that are meant for older riders, you think, well, I don't, they're kind of hard to steer, right? They're a little cumbersome in my opinion. This, for older riders, I definitely can see the appeal once you ride it. And that's part of the Stigma too. Now, this one's a little rough around the edges, but overall, the seating position, the power out of that 1833 cc liquid-cooled engine is actually pretty fantastic. You got the foot warmers down below that you can open up with levers, which is pretty fantastic, actually. Not on this day did I need them, but I did try to close them to see what kind of heat I was getting, and it was actually pretty impressive. But overall, the bike has the power, it has the modes, it has the gadgets if you like that type of thing, and it surely has a comfortable riding position. But the old man Stigma is why this bike is one of those ones, you know, that even some of my older friends, when I asked them, and they're like, I'll never get on a Goldwing. You know what I mean? It still has a stigma around it. Maybe even worse than what the tri-glides do. Some people think the price is too much, but I say, considering everything you get starting at $25, that's actually not too bad. I would actually say probably one of the better value touring bikes on the market, especially if you get one like this. If you don't need the latest and greatest, you're talking about $9,000 for a bike that can do pretty much any kind of touring that you want. It doesn't quite fit the biker image. It's refined. It's quiet, right? It has dual exhaust, but you can't hear it really. Kind of sounds like a Jetson vehicle almost, or a Jetson motorcycle. That doesn't fit in with typical Harley Davidsons, right? It certainly doesn't fit in with the aesthetics or the sound that I personally like. But when you're talking about smoothness, functionality, this bike really does it better than probably any of them on the road. It has a lot of technology, and I've noticed that especially here in our community, there's a lot of you guys that are very resistant to any kind of new technology in motorcycles. And even though I like it, I do understand why. Right? There's a simplicity to a lot of y'all in riding motorcycles and just being in the wind, not having all these additional things that could cause you problems down the road. So maybe there's not necessarily a wider appeal for these, because even going all the way back to 2013, and even before that, I think 2012 was a transition year for these things, there's just so much going on. It's almost got this nerdy image, but it's kind of a sleeper too, because these things are quick. I think this model, when it came out, according to Honda, it was 118 horsepower, 125 or 130 foot-pounds of torque. Harley is just now getting up to those numbers in some of their bikes. Hell, they're still not even there with regular stock road and street glides. You guys know how much I like Harleys, but at the end of the day, when it comes to power, performance, technology, safety features even, this bike literally has everything, and they have for a long time. And I think the price is actually pretty good too, considering what you get. I think a lot of more people hate to admit it, but they actually like the Goldwing. I know some of y'all really don't like it, but at the end of the day, I think there's a lot more people that would openly admit it if these bikes were seen as actually cool. So there you go. There's my opinion. I'd love to hear yours. Whatever it is, let me know down below. If you like what I do, consider subscribing. See you in the next one. And as always, hold 'em down.